Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Software Plaza podcast. I'm Twain Taylor, editor at Software Plaza, and I'm really excited to be bringing to you each week a different conversation in the space of software development, cloud computing, security, all of these things tech. And if you like what you hear, head over to our website and check out all of the articles we have, all of the previous conversations we've had. Also follow us, subscribe on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. We're on all of the podcast platforms that you listen to. So go and follow us there. And I'm excited to talk about today's topic, which is going to be around mobile app development and observability and testing and all of that. Well, in the mobile space, basically today is where we are. And we're going to be talking to Mahmoud El Magdoub, who is the director of product at Instabug. So Instabug, that's the website is instabug.com if you want to check them out later. But Mahmoud, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Twain. Happy to meet you and very happy to have this podcast. And you pronounced my name correctly. So that's we're
Thank
on a very
you.
good start.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some even more complex names, so I've got some practice in the past episodes.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, so as we get started, Mahmood, just was wondering if you could give us a little intro to your journey so far, your career, your background, and just your path leading up to Instabug.
Sure, would love to. So I'm Mahmoud El Magdoub. I'm a director of product here at Instabug. I've been at the company for the past 5 years. And
Wow.
yeah, I joined just in the start of COVID. So this was like my first day at the company. So to give
Oh,
you
man.
like, yeah, to give you
You've been
like
since then.
exactly. And to give you like a brief about what we do at Instabug, what we do sounds like very, very easy to do, but in real life it's complicated and it has a lot of like different moving parts. What we do is that we help mobile developers do three things. First, we help them like ship apps that are lightning speed, apps that are very fast. We help them ship apps that are bug-free without any crashes or problems. And we help them ship apps that are that their users love and use every single day. This is what we do briefly at Instabug. And my role currently at Instabug, I'm managing the different teams that are managing the core products at the company. When it
Okay.
comes, and yes, and when it comes to my career, I started back then in 2011. So
All right.
back then, by education, I'm a computer engineer, but by
Mm-hmm.
profession, I have always been in the product org. I'm a PM. I always loved like this dichotomy of like technical and business and the trade-offs that happen in between
Mm-hmm.
and the problem solving. This is my passion. As a PM, I worked across different industries. So I worked in oil and gas. I worked in recruitment. I worked in marketplaces. And my last stop was at Instabug. And at
Right.
Instabug, I can tell you like a funny story of why I joined Instabug and why was this my last stop. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can imagine, like back then in 2019, I was like, I had like most of my money in a specific bank here in Cairo, Egypt. It was one of the biggest banks in the country and a very traditional bank. But their mobile app was kind of crappy. Like the app itself was slow. It didn't have any features. It was hard to like transfer money. It usually crashed. But all of my
Mm-hmm.
money was in this like traditional bank. However,
Mm-hmm.
there was like a new bank that was coming along, and this bank, it
Mm-hmm.
was a new bank in town, but they had something different. They had a very good mobile app. The app worked well. The app was stable, and the app had the features that I wanted. So I felt like
Mm-hmm.
there is a wind of change that's happening. And
Mm-hmm.
just for this reason, like I transferred all of my money from this big bank, traditional bank, and I put it into this new bank just because
Mm-hmm.
of one thing, just because of this mobile app. It had a better mobile app. And till this day, this was a very good decision that I did
Okay.
because
All
I
right.
use their mobile app every single day. like it's like a fintech app. And
Mm-hmm,
at this
mm-hmm.
moment in time, there was like a realization that I had. Like I did all of this just because of an app. Maybe there is something bigger that's happening in the ecosystem. And I imagined, remember back then, traditional companies always had this digital transformation that was going on back like 10 years ago and still to this day.
Yeah.
Now there is something that's happening. It's called like the mobile transformation that's happening. And we see this at Instabug. We see this like across the 5 years that I've been at the company. I see this going exponentially. Like companies
Mm-hmm.
are moving into mobile apps. And back then, a mobile app, there was like, let's say I'm a big company. I have this main desktop app or web app, and I do like mobile on the side as a secondary project
Yeah.
as a feature, like mobile is a feature. Now mobile is
Yeah.
not a feature, like mobile is the product, mobile is the business. And we've seen this
Mm-hmm.
across the board in many companies. And I'm happy
Mm-hmm.
that I'm Instabug now and I'm part of this change that's happening.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, you have a way of telling stories and weaving these common threads across these points, and I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting conversation just because
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, there are a
Yeah,
lot of stories that I've seen across the company. I would love to tell them and share them with the audience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And interesting how you mentioned that, you make decisions based on things like, the UX, which you didn't mention UX, but then the shadow is there, user experience, user interface matters, and reliability matters, speed matters. All of this together. People make decisions, and it's the same whether it's an individual or whether it's an organization choosing between experiences that they prefer. Would you say
Yes.
so? What stays the same? What changes when the stakes are different when it's not an individual but it's an organization?
You mean to make sure I understand, you mean if I'm like an individual building an app versus like I'm an organization building an app? Is this
I
what you
mean,
mean?
like if it's an organization, or let's say it's an organization that's building a mobile app, and they probably they I don't know. Yeah, I guess probably what you said makes sense, that if it's yeah, who's building the app, how it's different, and how your user experience matters for an individual versus an organization.
Yeah, there is like a drastic difference between both. If
Mhm.
like I'm an individual building an app, usually it's, and we've seen this, like you're trying to optimize for, is my product going to hit the market? Are people going to use the product or not? So you focus more on things on like a very single feature, and this feature is working very well. You don't focus much on like quality, proactive quality, alerting, and stability. Mostly you want to make sure that people love your app, there's a good business around it. When you
Yeah,
talk with bigger organizations, as I told you, like the app is part of the business. Like let's say you have like a checkout flow. In the checkout flow, there is you get like millions of visits per day. If there is like a 1% chance of like a crash, it's like 1% times all of the revenue that was going to come through this day, which can be like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's a completely different scale, and I'll tell you
yeah,
like more details about it as we go through like different
yeah,
examples about this.
yeah. Yeah, what I get is the stakes are higher when it's an organization.
Exactly. Yes.
And I'm curious to know also about how things have changed over time for organizations that build mobile apps, because I mean, it's interesting that you say mobile transformation has been happening since the past 5 years, but then we've been hearing a lot about mobile first for longer than that, maybe a decade or more. Just, the term has been around for a long time, mobile first.
Yes.
Uh,
Um,
but if you can trace for us the evolution of mobile, this whole term of mobile first, what it started out as. Maybe it was different a decade ago when someone said we are going mobile first, versus in the 20s when someone says, we want to be mobile first. What's changed in terms of how they view mobile first, and what has changed even internally in these companies in terms of team structure and culture when it comes to mobile?
Yeah, very good. Like it's a big question, but let me try to like break it down. I can break it down to first like what's happening in like what's mobile first versus web, and then we can go into like the other realm of different like the evolution of the mobile app itself. So let's start
Hmm.
with like mobile versus web.
Okay.
When you come to think of like a mobile app versus a web app, it's
Hmm.
completely different. Like it's on a different spectrum uh, of what's happening. I'll tell you
Okay.
like a story. So
Hmm.
imagine we're using like a web app, and this web app, everything was good, everything was okay, and suddenly this app, there was an incident, and this app crashed completely for every single person. This is a catastrophe and this is an incident. So what will happen? There will be like an on-call developer. They will try to solve this problem. They will have like a hot fix, do a PR and merge it, and then deploy it on production. Usually this happens within like an hour and a half or 2 hours, and everything is back uh, okay and back all right. This is
Hmm.
when it comes to web. Now let's try to mimic the same exact scenario, but for like a mobile app. So for a mobile app, let's say the app was everything was fine, and suddenly the app crashed for every single customer they have. Now the stakes are completely different. I want you to imagine what will happen. So yes, there will be like an on-call mobile developer. They will try to solve the problem. They will do like a hot fix. They will do the PR. But what comes next is completely different. So what comes next is that they have to like have a build and upload this build on like the App Store. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the App Store, you have to wait like for the App Store to review
Yeah.
this app version. Then you'll
Hmm.
have to even wait even more time for people to adopt this app version. So there is like
Hmm.
these 7 different steps that happen just to like release an app version versus web. You could have solved it in like 1 hour. For a mobile
Hmm.
app, to solve it, you have to take like we're talking in days, sometimes weeks, to solve a critical bug. This is why it's like a common term that we say in Instabug, and we've seen it when we talk like with our customers. The cost of a bug on your mobile app is 10x the cost of the same bug on your web app, because the
Hmm.
time and the lag it takes to solve it is exponentially higher. And this was the
Hmm.
mentality we had when we were building Instabug. So we built Instabug in what we call like a mobile first mentality. What we
Okay.
realized when we entered the market, most of the offerings in the market there was this traditional APM backend microservices tool that was doing serving mobile as a platform on the side. They were not thinking about it from first principles. So we said,
Okay.
no, mobile is very different from web. If we'll start from a blank slate, how can we build a website, a tool that serves mobile developers and serves their needs? So this is how we thought about it. And I'll show
Hmm.
you in like a demo that we can have how Instabug is
Hmm.
very different, how we view like the app version and the release as the pivot that can like cascade across every single thing in the dashboard and the tool. So this is when it comes to mobile first. I can jump into like the evolution of mobile apps, but I want to know if you have any like questions around this.
Yeah, I found interesting what you said about how you noticed that most teams viewed, well, traditionally they had this microservices set up for their web app, and mobile was a separate add-on. It seemed like it was sidelined. That made me curious to think about what's the alternative? What's the other way that you look at the right way to do mobile first? If it's not, let's say someone listening to this says, yeah, hey, I'm still running that way, the old way that you spoke about, microservices, and then, as an add-on, we have a mobile app. But if I want to rethink this whole approach, how do I rethink it? What is that approach?
Okay, it's a very good question. So to rethink how you imagine like app quality, you can imagine it as a couple of things. First, and usually this is what happens, people in the mobile app realm, they only think about crashes. Like, what are the crashes that happen to my mobile app? If you ask any
Mm-hmm.
mobile developers, this is usually the thing that they look for. What I want to explain and go through, and we can discuss more about like later in the podcast, which is
Mm-hmm.
there is a broader definition of app quality. It's not only crashes. And mobile developers, even till this day, even like with very big companies that we talk to at Instabug, they don't know exactly what to look for. If you talk with like a back-end developer or like a front-end developer and ask them, what do you measure when you want to understand like the app quality of your product? They already know. There are like vitals that are known. There are different like error budgets that are known and SLOs. But for mobile apps, it's still fragmented and not very clear. And this is what I want to like discuss with you more today about the broader definition of app quality and how teams can help solve these different problems.
I also wanted to follow up a bit on what you mentioned about just how many steps there are to fix a bug and how
Yeah.
long it takes. Uh, you hear things about like feature flagging, things like that, partial releases where you just you can turn off features, or you can when something is in production, if it fails, you just turn off that feature or roll it back. You hear those things, but I'm sure it's not really reached, mass adoption, those kind of practices. But what's the state as of now? Where are we, and how are things moving in terms of this? Are these mobile, the mobile OS, Android, iOS, are they actually making efforts to shorten this time span, or do they have big challenges of their own that they just can't shorten it no matter what they try? How are things like feature flagging? Are they reaching, like, are they being practiced with, when it comes to mobile apps? What's the state with just how slow that is moving? Is it changing, or is it still pretty much the same?
Definitely, it's changing. Like if you look back like 15 years ago or 10 years ago in 2010s, um, there wasn't much like tooling around this area. There wasn't any like CI/CD pipelines. There wasn't like any feature flagging or any part of this. Now, when you look at like the big companies, the mobile app companies, like let's say the Ubers of the world, the
Mm-hmm.
Netflixes of the world, how they're
Yeah.
like building their mobile app, they're building it with a very good app quality mentality. So
Mm-hmm.
they roll out on like a specific percentage. So for example,
Okay.
they don't roll out suddenly. They
Mm-hmm.
have every feature is behind a feature flag. So even if a
Right.
problem happened on production, they can like turn off this feature flag. It's all
Yeah.
about like a better releasing hygiene that's
Mm-hmm.
happening, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like testing that happens and automated testing that happens before even releasing on production. So yes,
Okay.
this is happening right now, but it's not adopted by the majority of the mobile app companies that we see.
All right. All right. Got it.
But there is a
Uh,
lot of like improvements that happened across the years.
Okay. Got it. So, yeah, you were mentioning how, mobile doesn't really have SLOs, SLAs, and there's just a vast difference in, how mobile app dev teams talk about and understand what performance metrics are and what is okay, what's not okay. So, sounds like that's a major gap. What's the root of this gap? Why does it exist? And what are some of the organizations that you've seen that actually don't have this gap, that are doing things right? What's the difference with them? What do they know that the others don't?
Okay, a very, very good question and on point. So to understand this gap, we have to go back a little bit in time. So let's go back to 2007, like with the release of the iPhone. So even when the iPhone was released, if you remember, the first iPhone was released, you can just like do some codes on it. It didn't even have applications on it. It was just
Mhm.
like a piece of metal. Then a couple of years later, there were like applications, but there wasn't any tooling around it. If you go
Mhm.
back to 2010, a revolution happened. And this revolution was with like a tool that entered the market. It was called Crashlytics. And this tool helped mobile developers like solve crashes and monitor crashes on production in real time.
Mhm.
So this
Mhm.
was like a step function change in how developers are solving crashes. So
Okay.
developers back then in 2010, they said,
Mhm.
hey, Crashlytics helps us a lot in solving crashes. That's the way to go. Okay,
Mhm.
so this was in 2010. Now, if
Mhm.
you imagine like in 2025, right now, if you ask mobile developers what you look at, they only look at crashes as well. Yes, there are other like tools in the market, and the user expectations have changed completely, like on an exponential level, yet developers are still looking at crashes. I'll give you an example related to like the expectations of users. So if we go back like 15 years ago, I was very okay with using an app and launching an app, and the app like takes 10 seconds to load. This was the normal back then. But now, an app for me, if it doesn't load like, if it loads like more than 2 seconds or 3 seconds, I'll put it in like the bucket of like slow apps. And 5 seconds or 6 seconds, that's like a red flag for me. And even like how you work with the app, like does it glitch? Does it hang? Does it work well? All of these things, we had very different expectations back then. Even like the screen size was very small. Now it's different. So there is like the user expectations has gone up exponentially, but the way developers measure app quality is the same. It's the same. It's app quality as if today. So what we're trying to do as Instabug, we're trying to close this gap. We're trying to provide the tooling for mobile developers to understand what's a good measure, to make sure what you're building for is what the user expects. So this is when it comes to like the evolution of what's happening with mobile. There is another problem that's happening as well in mobile, and this is what we call like the education problem with mobile teams. So for you to understand the education problem, I'll tell you another story as well. And this happened, I saw it like 6 months ago in Egypt. It was back in March. So March in Egypt is usually like a very high season for people to buy things. And this was a grocery app. This app, I know these guys. They serve like millions of customers. It's a very big company. And they look at their crashes. Like they always maintain like a 1% crash rate. And they clap to each other like, hey, we're a very stable app. And on a specific day in March, what happened is that, yes, there was no crashes in the app, but there was, when you go and check out in the grocery, in like the last step, there is like a hang. Let's say you click buy, and there is like a hang, or what we call like a fatal hang, a hang that goes on infinitely. So what happened that day, this day by itself, even though there was zero crashes, they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because they were looking at a proxy metric and not looking at the correct metric. As I told you, we're trying to like bridge the gap between user expectations and what developers are trying to solve. So the problem is people focus on crashes, and we want to change this. What I want to tell you more about this is that I believe in, do you know when you say, for example, the medium is the message? Do you know this term? Like, for example, if I say the same message in a podcast and use the same message and say it like on Slack or in an email, the message differs based on the medium. The same thing happens because I would say like the tool is the message. So the tooling that mobile developers use, it gives them like a tunnel vision because they're using like traditional tools. So if the tools tell you every day, like focus on this crash, solve this crash, you will not see the other spectrum that's happening. So this is part of the problem. And this is what we said, like, hey, at Instabug, let's try to think about this from like a blank slate or like first principles. What is the broader definition of app quality? How do we define app quality? Is it only crashes, or what does it mean? So this was like 10 years ago. I wasn't in the company yet, but I heard about these conversations. They took a lot of like the customers and sat with customers and asked them, for you, when you say like this app is performing well, what do you mean? And yes, people mentioned crashes, but they mentioned 10 other things. We took all of these things and we were now building the tooling around it. So the broader definition of app quality, to give you like the summary of it, it's a summary between two things, what we call proactive app quality and what we call reactive app quality. So proactive app quality is when you monitor things by your own. You look at crashes. You look, for example, about the latency of your app launch. You look at about like your network errors and network failures. You look for any like hangs that happen or glitches that happen through your app. And you look as well, like let's say you have a very critical flow in your app, you look at like the drop-offs and the errors that happen in this. So this is what we call like proactive app quality, to look up for like the different metrics that happen in your app. So this is proactive. There is another part that's called reactive, and this comes hand in hand with the proactive app quality, which is
Mhm.
the qualitative problems that happen. Let's say someone on the App Store says, hey, I have a problem when I try to log in, for example, or hey, the app always crashes, or there is an error in this specific area. You have to like monitor this as well and solve it, and give users as well like a leeway or a place in your app to send bugs. Like someone wants to send like, hey, I had a bug in this place, and you try to solve it. So this is reactive feedback, and it goes hand in hand with proactive feedback. And this is like the whole philosophy of Instabug. Like proactive and reactive feedback go hand in hand. This is what we try to solve with like the education gap that I was telling you about.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have a question for you, because it was
Sure.
a study that we did. Um,
Hmm.
let's say there's an app, some app store reviews. Let's say there is like let's say there's like 1,000 app store reviews. What
Hmm.
percent on average do you think will be related to like the stability and the performance of your app?
Out of 1,000 reviews, what
Yeah,
percentage is related to the stability?
yeah.
I would guess maybe 50 to 60%.
Uh, it's a little bit lower than that, but it's at 40%, which is actually a very high number. When you
All right.
imagine like if you solve 40% of these problems, like the reviews of your app will be at a much higher place.
I guess I
So
said that
yeah,
because of the conversation and the context right now, like you said,
yeah,
idiom. So right now we're talking about
exactly.
it. So I kind of assumed that number is high. But if you had asked me this when we are not having this conversation, I'd have probably had a much lower number. So I guess
I can
it's math.
imagine. Yeah.
But sorry to interrupt. Yeah, you were going to say.
No, I was saying just like this was like the education gap that I was telling you about, and this is why at Instabug we're trying to help developers not have like a tunnel vision on crash reporting, and to give them the tooling that can help them like solve this broader definition of app quality that we have.
Wow.
I can show you a
And so
demo if you want to see like
sure, yeah, we'll
something.
get into the demo in just a bit.
Sure.
And yeah, but to summarize, it sounds like what you're saying is, you're talking to mobile app dev teams and you're saying, Crashlytics was 15 years ago. You need to move on from just crashes. There's a bigger world out there when it comes to, monitoring your mobile app, improving performance. And you gave us some of those metrics as well. Uh, yeah, I was wondering if you could, before the demo, if you could just briefly trace for us, uh, the journey of an organization that goes from monitoring just crashes to monitoring these different other metrics that actually tell you beyond crashes what's happening. What are some of the key milestones along that journey that you've seen in organizations that typically go from basic crashes to more mature, holistic monitoring and observability?
Okay. Um, Again, like I want you to imagine like a spectrum. So
Mm.
at this spectrum, let's say on the right side, this is like the very advanced companies in the mobile app quality space. And
Yeah,
then on the left side, there is the companies that are just starting out. And we
yeah.
have like 3 points on this spectrum. There is a
Hmm.
company that's called a starter. This is like a startup that's just
Yeah.
beginning. Then we have what's called like a follower. Then we have a leader in
All
this
right.
space. Okay. So a starter, definitely they look at crashes only. They don't look at anything else. Now,
Right.
if you look at like a follower, even
Hmm.
we've talked with companies in the US and Latin America, in India and Europe, very
Hmm.
big companies that like valuation with like billions of dollars, they are in the follower area. They're not
Oh,
proactive. So what do? Yes, they look at crashes. Do they solve
mhm.
other things? Yes, they solve it, but they solve it with a reactive mentality. So how does this
Okay.
happen? They don't build like the tooling around them to be proactive. So for example, if someone says, "Hey, your app is slow, your app launch is slow," Then they will go and fix the app launch. Hey, your network is failing a lot. They will go and fix the network. So it's always like a reactive step, but at least they're in the right direction. They just wait for problems to happen and then they solve them. So this is a common thing that we're seeing. The better approach would be that you are proactive and you build the tooling around all of this. So you're not reactive. So for example, let's say you build like an alerting system around all of the different metrics that you are measuring. So you would get notified before the problem even happens. So this is like what the advanced companies do. You would build a lot of automation and a lot of things in your like CI/CD pipeline to automate a lot of things and do like testing in what you're doing. So this is usually like the spectrum. You can imagine it like starter, follower, and leader. And leader is like the advanced companies in this space.
All right. Wow,
Yeah.
really interesting. That's a really nice separation and a good way for people listening to this to really think, where do I fall? And
Thank you.
how should I be thinking of this? Yeah, just last quick question before we go on to the demo is just
Sure.
about let's say this journey of making this change. Where do you see it starting? Which kind of roles do you see most, in tune and wanting to make this change? Is it more coming from like the CTO perspective or more from the product perspective or some other role, some other team that kind of takes the lead in the organization? Which are typically the roles that you see taking the lead and really, driving this?
Sure. So I'll give you like two answers for this. It depends on, there are companies, I would say companies that in different industries, let's say like a company in the telecom industry, and they have a mobile app, and this app is very important for them, but they're not a technology company. They are like a telecom industry or maybe like a healthcare or hospital or something, but their mobile app is important. These companies, usually, the decision makers are the product managers. So the product
Okay.
manager would come and say, hey, we need to improve our app launch to be XYZ, or we need to like lower our crash rate. These companies are driven by product managers, which are like
Okay.
the non-tech, you can call it
Yeah.
non-tech mobile first companies.
All right.
So
All right.
that's one part. The other bucket would be like tech companies. Usually in advanced tech companies, they have what they call like a platform team and the feature team. So the feature team is the team that's cranking up like new features. A lot of like the feature work and product work happens there. Then the platform team is responsible for the app quality. They get like a target every year from the CTO or the VP of engineering, whether it's related to like cost, related to like performance, or related to different things, and they cascade it across the organization. But it's handled by like this platform team.
All right.
So it differs depending on like the type of the company.
Interesting. Wow. That's another good way to segment this and look at the space as well.
Yeah,
Uh, okay, so demo time. What
great.
do you really excited to see the demo?
Perfect. I can show you like a quick 5-6 minute demo of Instabug, like what we
Sure.
do, what's our offering, and how like we solve all of the things I told you about. So
Yep.
can you give me a minute?
Yeah. All right, we
Great.
see your screen.
Yes, perfect. So this is the main dashboard of Instabug. This is what we call the app health page. So the app health page, remember when I told you we're trying to think about like the broader definition of app quality? And the decision we took is that we have a new metric. This metric is what we call the frustration-free sessions. Like this metric.
Yeah, I've not seen that as a metric before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a new metric that combines all of the definitions that we have to define like, is this a good app or not? Remember when I told you we sat down with users and asked them? So this metric defines this. This is like at like a 95% plus, your app is in another place. So what does
Okay.
this metric, what is it combined of? It's combined of different different metrics that are related to mobile stability. So it combines crashes. It combines what's called, are you familiar with ANRs in Android?
No.
Okay, yeah, so if someone has like an Android phone, Usually, if you're using the phone and a problem happened, it tells you application not responding. This is like
Okay.
it's like a pop-up. So this is
Yeah.
like, it shows you like how many sessions does not have this ANR or application not responding. It tells
All
you
right. All
like
right.
the app launch, like the launch
So is that
time of it.
Android or does that even work across iPhone?
So this is what I'm showing you is like an Android demo.
Okay.
I can show
All
you
right.
an iOS demo as well. But yes,
Ah,
iOS has its own like metrics as well.
right. All right. Got
So
it.
this
Got
is
it.
like the ANRs, the network failures, the hangs that happen. It combines all of this into one specific metric that you can look at and solve
Mm-hmm.
over time. And you can do like all of your alerting on it and set up all of your alerting systems around it. So this is when it comes to this metric. What we're
Mm-hmm.
very good at is the amount of context and debugging information that we give you so you can solve the problems. So I'll show you a couple of things. The first
Yeah.
thing is what we call frustration issues. Do you see this one?
Yeah.
So what's frustration issues? It's an AI that we have. This AI agent it goes over all of the different issues across all of the different metrics that you have and tells you like these are the things that you need to solve right now to make sure that your app is healthy. It's like a prioritization scheme. So you
Ah,
click
right.
here, it tells you like, hey,
Right.
this crash, you have to solve it. This is like the impact of it. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is an app hang that you need to solve, and this is the impact of it. It
Got it.
tells you like these are the things that you need to solve. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
let's look at like a crash, and I can show you some details around it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a listing of all of the crashes that you receive on your dashboard. Here it tells you like the crashes over time. And here
Yeah.
is like every single crash that you have, the number of occurrences, and all of like the different data points around it.
Mm-hmm.
What we give you is that, and this is something that our customers told us they love about Instabug, is that we give them a lot of like filtering so that they can know exactly the problem that they're facing. So let's say I want to know the crashes that are happening on a specific screen. So you would click
Okay.
on current view and you would see this. I want to know the crashes that are happening. Remember when you mentioned like a feature flag? The
Yeah.
crashes that are happening on a specific feature flag
All right. All right.
or
Got it.
on user attributes, which is you would say like crashes that are in a specific country or
Mm-hmm.
VIP users, for example. All of these
Uh,
things we give customers the ability to filter by. Now let's
you.
look
Yeah.
at the debugging part of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's
So
say
you
yeah,
can
go ahead.
attributes, they're customizable.
Uh, Sorry, I can't hear you.
I was asking, you can define those attributes to whatever uh,
Yes,
how you
yes,
want to define.
it's like a key value pair. You can define whatever you want.
Yeah.
So let's look into like a specific crash. I open this crash. Here is what we call like the crash details page. It shows you like a summary of what's happening on this crash before diving into like the details of this crash. It
All
tells
right.
you like these are all of like the different app versions that this crash happened on. Then it
Okay.
shows you here is like the patterns. Like these are like the aggregations of all of the things that are happening in this crash. So
Mm-hmm.
usually like traditional tools show you like 2, 3 patterns. We show you around like 20 different patterns that you can choose from to understand what's happening exactly. It's like a time saver. So let's
Mm-hmm.
say if I click on feature flags, for example, here,
Mm-hmm.
it tells me like instead of like going into like every single occurrence, it tells me these two feature flags happen 22% of the time in this crash. So you can
Mm-hmm.
maybe do like a correlation between this feature flag and the crash itself. You can go into like the current view, which shows you like current view is like the screen. So it shows you like the percentage, like 38% of crashes happened on this screen.
Okay. All right. All right.
That's the like the patterns. Then you go down. This is like the different stack traces
Yeah.
that we have as well for this crash,
Mm-hmm.
and with all of like the different information around it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I want to jump into like the occurrence itself and tell you like how you can reproduce this crash, which is
Oh,
something that our customers use every single day. So I
Mm-hmm.
click here on occurrences. It tells me like, yes, this is the crash and this is the exact occurrence that happened, and you can like navigate between them. It gives me like the metadata around this occurrence, the feature
Mm-hmm.
flags, and any extra attachments that you have, and you can put for this crash that can help you solve it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
do you see this feature? It's called repro steps. Repro
Yeah.
steps is our way of telling you these are the steps that happened before this crash happened. This is
Okay.
incredibly important for a mobile app developer so they can go through the different steps to produce their crash on their development environment and solve this crash. So when you click here, it tells me like, because this is like a private screen, so the screenshot is not, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't show. It tells me
Okay.
like, hey, on this screen that's called like sunflower plants, the user swiped, tapped on a button called floating button, tapped again, then the app crashed. This means
Okay.
that probably if they click 2 times on the floating button, this means
Mm-hmm.
that the app crashes. This
Mm-hmm.
information you can't get from the stack trace, but you can get from understanding and dissecting the different like repro steps that we have.
Neat. Wow. It's like a replay button.
Exactly. Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
this is like the profiler over time, like the CPU, the memory, because some crashes on mobile happen because like the phone is hot, for example, from all of the usage.
Okay. Okay.
Then you would get down below into all of like the logs that we have. You get like network logging. So you would see like the different requests response that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like there was a network response that caused the app to crash. You would see all of this. You would see like all of the different logs. We send everything like we know how developers think, and we know that developers love more information. So
Mm-hmm.
Instabug has like a good amount of information for developers to understand what's happening under the hood.
Absolutely.
As
I think only shown us just one of the tabs on the left side, and
yeah,
looks like more than 10 of them. So there's a lot
exactly.
of
Yeah, it's I told you it's like a whole observability platform that can help you like solve things. I'll show you a couple of two more things. So
mm-hmm.
this is when it comes to crashes. I want to give you like a snapshot as well when it comes to like performance problems. So let's say you see this app launch.
Yeah.
It tells me like, hey, is your app launch going well or bad? Is it does it have like a lot of latency, and how you can solve this? So if I click here on cold app launch, it tells me like usually it's at like zero point 0.3 seconds the app launch, which is a very good number. If I click on it
Mm-hmm.
here, it tells me like the different trends. Um, like usually over time, that's the average loading time, the P50. It's zero point 0.3 seconds. And when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to debugging, this spans section, it's what our developers use the most. It tells you like the app launch happened, but there are different pieces that cause
Yeah.
this app launch to happen. So here it tells
Yeah.
you like each piece and how much it's contributing to the latency itself.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see more details around it here if I click on like the details, for example.
Mm-hmm. So like
So
kind of like
like a
telemetry.
breakdown, yeah.
Yeah.
Telemetry details around like
Mhm.
the database requests that are happening,
Yeah.
like what's cause is there like a bottleneck. So all of these things you can check with Instabug. I just showed you two metrics, but we have like 12 different metrics as well.
Mm-hmm.
If we have time, I can show you like session replay, our session replay product, but it depends on the time as well.
Yeah. No, I think we're kind of running out of time.
Okay,
We've got still a couple of questions before we
great.
went.
Sounds good.
You
Thank
definitely
you.
should in a couple of months and do a part two with us to talk
Exactly.
because I don't think we've finished talking about all we wanted to. Um,
Exactly. Thank you. So I'll stop sharing here.
yeah, quite a fascinating product there. And like you mentioned, just a lot of information, but really well laid out. And I love just all of the controls to be able to drill down to exactly the issue
Yeah.
that you need to fix. And the prioritization was great.
Thank
Uh,
you.
It seems, and I'd like to kind of go back to what you said in the beginning about tunnel vision, that,
Yes.
Crashlytics, you only think crashes, but, you intentionally built your product around to think beyond crashes and to kind of think of the whole breadth of issues that face mobile app dev teams. And I think that comes through especially in your top metric that you showed us, the first metric that you showed us, the
Yeah.
frustration-free.
Frustration-free sessions. Yeah.
Quite fascinating there. So, definitely, I can see that, it all makes sense and how it comes together in your demo and the product that you showed us.
Yeah.
So yeah, really fascinating there. Uh,
Thank you.
and I'm wondering for someone who's listening to this and thinking, I've got to, do something about this because I can relate to what Mahmoud is saying, that, I kind of think too much about crashes and I want to go beyond crashes. What are some of the best ways to get started? Of course, they definitely should probably check out your tool. You probably have a trial, I'm guessing, or I see there's some sandbox option on your website. Just how do they get started with the tool? And even beyond the tool and implementation, what's the mindset that they need to have as they get started so that they're getting started on the right foot with the right mindset?
Yeah, very good question. So if they want to start Instabug, we have like you can say like try a demo, and there is someone like from our development team or solution engineering team will walk you through like a demo of Instabug and help you like integrate it and try it out. When it comes to the things that people can get like as a takeaway from this podcast and like how they can improve their app quality for mobile, I would say there are three things they can focus on. The
Mhm.
first thing is what I call like do your homework. So this is when you would gather, I would call this like a quality board. So this is like the engineering leadership of the company. And it's even better if you get in like the product folks as well and sit together and define what does it mean for our app to be like high quality. You can even like run different tests on like your competitor. Like let's say your competitor's app launch is 2 seconds and you are at 5 seconds, then you would say we need to neutralize them, we should be at 2 seconds. So you would sit together, define the different benchmarks you need to hit across all of the metrics. So
Mhm.
I'll tell you the main metrics now, and definitely like there are more metrics that we can talk about, but I'll give you like the main ones. So the first one, as I told you, is crashes. You need to define like a crash rate uh, that you need to hit. You need to define the second thing is the app launch latency, the latency of your app launch. Then you need to define the transition between screens, like what we call the screen loading latency. For example, let's say your app launch is very fast, but it takes time to load between screens. This is something
Mhm.
bad.
Yeah.
Then you would define what we call non-fatal errors. These are the errors that happen in your app, but are not fatal or not crashes. So let's say you click on a button, it tells you, I cannot do this action now, for example. So you would define like a percentage of errors that should happen. You would define as well like the failure rates for your network. And the last two things I would say define like the hang rate, how much your app hangs and glitches. This is
Mhm.
very important, especially like as I told you, like user expectations is high. And the last thing I would say, define the critical flows of your app because not every single screen is important. Define the critical flows and run a lot of tooling around it. So for example, this screen, the drop-off rate or the error rate should not be less than X, for example. So this is
Mhm.
when it comes to the first part, which is about do like a quality board, do your homework, sit together and define all of these things. Once you have these things defined, then you would do like the proactive uh, part about it. You would build like an alerting system around all of these benchmarks. So you would know proactively about like what's happening, all of the problems that are happening in your app with the benchmarks that you already you already did. The third part, and this is related if you have like a big team. So what we've seen, are you familiar with like the code ownership concept?
Code ownership, is it?
Yes.
Like
Are you
you build
familiar with
kind
it?
of thing? Like you
Um,
build it, you ship it kinds, like.
No, no,
Or is
I mean in terms of like every single area in the code, someone is owning it. Um,
okay, all right?
so
No, you can explain that some more.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So there is a concept called code ownership. Usually it's more common in like back-end tools. Now it's
Okay.
becoming adopted in mobile as
Oh,
well. If you have a
okay.
team of like a huge mobile team, it's better to define like who owns what in the code. So whenever
All
like
right.
an error happens, automatically it gets assigned on the person. And we noticed that doing like this code ownership saves, I would say, saves like the time to solve a crash by two folds at least, because it lowers like the communication barrier. So these
Mm-hmm.
things like do your homework, do proactive alerting, and build like systems, do like code ownership around your app. So yeah,
Wow.
these are like the three checklists that I would say people can
Yeah,
take as a
a lot of
takeaway.
insight that you packed in just that response alone. I think that itself can be, translated into an entire implementation guide, getting started guide, amazing stuff there.
Thank you.
Um, you mentioned benchmarking. Is
Yes.
that also included in Instabug in any way? Like, can some team look at their competing app and look at, or in their domain and look at benchmarks and compare themselves?
Yes, so there are two things. First, we offer like regular we offer on our like blog post, there are like regular updates about like the benchmarks. We publish
Okay.
this yearly because the benchmarks change from each industry to the other, and we publish
Mhm.
this yearly. The other
Okay.
thing, if you join Instabug, we already like our solutions team will sit with you and help you. Remember when I told you about like the app quality board? They will help you like define the different metrics. Let's say you're a banking app in Latin America, for example. So
Mhm.
they will tell you like usually these are like the benchmarks for banking apps, and for Latin America this is the average, and they can help you like do the different benchmarks as well. So we offer general guidelines, and at Instabug itself, the solution engineer will help you define all of these benchmarks as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Great. With that, we're out of time. Wow, that was quite a conversation. You
yeah.
really did masterclass in under an hour on just all things mobile app development, UI, UX, product, and yeah, just an amazing, fascinating conversation this was.
Thank you
Um,
so much. I enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, that's great. And everyone who's watching and listening, go and check out Instabug. If you got anything from what Mahmoud says, he's really passionate about this, and the product they've built is really amazing. Just very purpose built for mobile app dev teams. So if you've got a mobile app that you own in your organization, whether on the engineering or the product side, go and check out Instabug, and maybe even look up some of their reports. As Mahmoud said, they publish a lot of content on the benchmarks and all of that. Check some of those out and see how you compare. Definitely listen to this again, because I think some of those responses that Mahmoud gave, there was so much information packed into it in terms of metrics to look at, and how to plan ownership, and the different stages, the different kinds of teams. So go and listen, go and give it a listen again. With that, we come to the end of this conversation. Thanks so much again, Mahmoud. Come back in some time, because we've got
Sure.
more to talk about on this topic.
Would love to. We can do like a part two. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Twain. Thank you,
All
everyone,
right.
for listening. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks to all of our listeners and viewers as well for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.